Shut up and sit down.
Howdy and salutations, welcome to Broken Table Commentary, a three-man creative debate podcast all about the greatest of fake sports, professional wrestling. Every week, we each bring a different topic to the table. The topics can be ridiculous or serious, opinion or factual, creative or not, whatever we feel like. On commentary, we have our Mark, the debonair diabetic dad, Lenton.
And I'm not grumpy, by the way.
Our historian, the Scottish Grumplestiltskin, Michael.
I'm Michael, editor of the40p.com, and I feel like I've just had my copyright violated.
Yeah, boy!
And our critic, me, Jessel. As always, you can follow us on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Facebook as Broken Table Commentary, or follow us directly at BrokenTableCommentary.com. New episodes are broadcast every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode number 7, Conference Table.
Woo!
Payback just happened. There's a Vince biopic in the works, and the three of us are going to try to alter and fix professional wrestling history. This week's episode is a doozy, but you know what else is a doozy? So we did the Booker T Fantasy Invitational, where we tried to book a whole year. We've been keeping up points. I'm losing. Lenny is winning.
I am the greatest.
You can check out our point scores at our website. But one of the listeners actually did the impossible and accurately predicted the name change of Great Balls of Fire, the pay-per-view, at the correct date.
Oh, he got the correct date, too?
Yeah. It's insanity.
Holy my God.
It is insanity that someone could actually predict that Vince McMahon would name a pay-per-view in 2017 Great Balls of Fire.
Well, the guy who picked it, Lance, he's older, too, right?
He is.
How old is Lance?
He is older. He is older.
So, I guess we should have trusted the old white guy to get into the mind of the other old white guy.
True. His reasoning, by the way, was that he thought that he needed to, when coming up with new pay-per-view names, he tried to get his brain into the brain of Vince and said, well, what did he just listen to on the radio?
Well, that's the call of the year.
Now, to be fair, I don't think his other pay-per-views are going to happen. I think he named one like Dick Slap or something. So I don't think his other ones are going to happen. But if we see WWE presents Dick Slap 2018, we know who to talk to when we need predictions.
We'll have to get Lance on here as a special guest if he gets a second one.
Absolutely.
Because that'd be crazy.
So Payback happened Sunday, and it was it has some talking points. I figure if you guys have anything you want to talk about, we can talk about some Payback. Overall impressions, what do you guys think?
Well, avoiding the obvious elephant in the room, which I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about any minute, I think I was like most of the people in the arena and genuinely surprised that Braun Strowman won the main event.
Yeah. You don't bet against Roman, though Roman did get the win back on Raw Talk, so 50-50, it's all even. But
although they did like the whole Roman Reigns as Ken Shamrock, the world's most internal bleeder, ignoring the medics.
There was a shocking amount of blood this Payback. Like the Pagey era is over, the bloodless era. There might not be blade anymore, but that's a lot of blood. And coughing it up, all the violence and the really good tag match with Matt Hardy getting his skin ripped apart twice at 2 different points in that match. That's pretty good. It was
It means more because it happens less.
Absolutely.
Although when they were really going on to Raw about how the whole Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman feud isn't ended yet, they're not finished.
Oh no, ambulance match at Extreme Rules, bud.
I was like, this isn't wrestling. It's become Tom and Jerry.
I like the pay-per-view. I actually thought that every match really delivered. Alexa Bliss, hey, you don't win in your hometown. Jessel got that one right. I mean, I got a lot of other ones wrong, but I was right about Alexa Bliss winning it.
Unless you're Alexa Bliss because she won the title contendership.
That's because she's becoming the genre-savvy one. And that's great. We haven't seen a great genre-savvy WWE character in a very long time. Because even with Cena, who gives us slightly genre-savvy promos, or The Miz, who does the same, they still wrestle in a traditional WWE style. but Alexa straight up uses the tropes of the WWE to her advantage and wins. That's pretty rocking.
We also had the US title merry-go-round. We had Kevin Owens, then we had Chris Jericho. Now we've got Kevin Owens again.
On SmackDown, Owens beat Jericho again. And actually the best of their 3 matches, in my opinion.
But there's lots of interesting things. There's the suggestions that the Hardys are... It feels like somebody's trying to break them. I don't know.
Absolutely. They actually came out on Raw, and both of them together deleted them. I mean, it happened. They both went delete.
Yeah, they did a little neck thing. I don't know what they call that. I guess the delete is what they call that.
I guess.
And Charlotte Flair seems to be having turned face.
It's not quite there, because her promos are still a little bit heelish, but it looks like she's definitely on the face side of things. That was a great match too on SmackDown, the tag match. Because you know what?
Yeah, that was really good one.
I did not care for Naomi, but holy crap, Naomi looks and acts like a champ. Out of nowhere, she reminds me of, because I've been watching a lot of Russo era WCW, she reminds me of Booker T. She reminds me, as she's got the confidence, she's got the skill, she is the champ. And that's really good for her, because I did not think she could pull it off, and she's doing a great job. She looks like she belongs. I also love that Carmella totally doesn't. The whole story of that match is how Carmella sucks. Carmella would kick Naomi, and Naomi just no-sells it. Naomi kicks Carmella, and she goes flying across the ring. And that happened over and over again, and then Natalya would come in and is on par with Naomi. I really enjoyed that, because it makes Carmella have a really nice character. I dig it. Things are going pretty well for SmackDown.
When we watched the women's NXT special a while ago now, Naomi always struck me as one of the ones who had great potential on it, but then they kind of stuck her as a dancing cheerleader for far too long.
And she still does dance just a little too much for my tastes. Just a little bit.
Yeah, that entrance needs to be cut by 20 seconds.
Just the 20 seconds in the ring part.
Oh yeah,
all the rest of it, her dancing. So let's talk about the House of Horrors. One of I've been waiting for a new Kennel from Hell, and I think we finally got it. I think we finally got something worse, and it's even worse than the Kennel from Hell. Because it was pre-taped.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it is. Absolutely worse, because they had the chance
to fix it,
to redo whatever they needed to redo over and over and over, and they didn't fix a single thing.
Man, it's people. Wrestling history was made at Payback. The new worst thing, the new funniest, most bad thing just happened. And it's so wonderfully bad. You have to watch this. Get the network and then watch the House of Horrors match, because holy crap. How this worked was they pre-taped 3 weeks ago in a house that you can now buy, by the way. It is $36,000 and it is in Missouri. So if you want the house that they filmed House of Horrors in, you can buy it. Hopefully it comes with Ghost Tractor.
I was about to say, it better come with all that cool stuff or I'm not getting it.
So they film it, but they tried to film it like a movie, which, i.e. that means that the cameramen are invisible. Because, like when you watch a movie, you don't think about the cameramen. But in wrestling, you think about the guys holding the cameras and stuff, and the wrestlers interact with it. Well, they filmed it like there's no cameraman, except you can constantly see the damn cameraman. You can see his shadows, you can see the weird cuts, just like when Randy Orton murdered a cameraman by locking him inside of the building and then burning it. This is the same thing. There was a cameraman there the whole time watching this thing, but they pretended like he wasn't, and they'd cut to things the cameraman couldn't do. Like there's a camera shot of the camera slithering from the kitchen to Randy Orton like it was a snake. Like, it's just nonsense. There's edited in music. The two guys didn't know how to do a film style fight, so they do a wrestling style one. So all it looks like is they're just grunting at each other. Randy.
Sounds like Street Fighter now. Oh, stop it! Stop. Wait, he's gonna do the whole match. Quit.
Baby dolls, why are they here?
Baby doll.
A tree pyramid for
A
no
lamp,
reason.
not a lamp.
A tree pyramid in one room. He never even enters that room. He just looks in it. He looks in it, sees a tree pyramid, and goes, all right, and then he leaves.
So that's what you thought it was. It was a tree pyramid. I like that.
It looked like
That's
a tree
good.
pyramid
That's good.
that a couple days before Bray Wyatt had built. And then he said, this just isn't scary enough. I need to go get another baby doll head. Stick that on there.
I like to think
let
that
me get some deer
Bray
antlers
Wyatt.
and just tie those on there.
I like to think that Bray Wyatt didn't build that either, and Bray's like, wait, how did that get here? That's the big mystery. Nobody knows how that one thing got there. That's what I'm taking away from the match.
You mean the sinister electric oven wasn't scary? The clean dishes in the sink were my favourite thing. Hey, Bray Wyatt may be a possessed demon man who can teleport and trap people in a house of horrors, but god damn it, he's house
The
proud.
worst part about all of this is that the whole point of this is that the match is pinfall, submission, or forfeiture. So if they beat each other enough in the house and then leave, then they can't get to the ring, so they lose by forfeiture. So Bray Wyatt does beat up Randy enough that he drops the refrigerator on him, and then he takes Randy's car to get there. He takes Randy's limo and leaves the House of Horrors to get to the arena. Then Randy just teleports into the arena. Like they don't give any indication of how Randy got there. He ran. He sprinted there, I guess. They gave no indication of how he got there. He just was there. But then my baby boy, my love and joy, my button-down shirt-clad trio, Jinder Mahal came and saved it by making Bray Wyatt look like the biggest idiot because he was too weak to win his own damned match without Jinder Mahal coming in and helping him out. And that's wonderful.
Oh dear. The biggest question here is, of course, why did Randy Orton stop on the way to the arena to have a shave?
I didn't even notice.
Oh, I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, he's got a beard in the thing, but when he gets to the arena, he's clean shaven.
You know, Michael, I was so excited that I was never going to have to watch this match again. And now I have to rewatch the whole thing to see this. No, I don't personally have a problem with all the cameramen being there and not being there in the music, because we had the New to come to the compound and wrestle the Wyatts, last year, and it's not considered that terrible of a thing. I think we all just, okay, that wasn't that great, but we all just kind of let it go. So I really want to go back and rewatch the whole New Day versus Wyatts at the compound thing and see how it stacks up to the House of Horrors now. It definitely wasn't as bad, but I can't remember anything significant that happens. But I can't think of anything significant bad that happens or good.
I guess did they not continue the Xavier getting hypnotized by Bray, which was the best part of the whole New Day Bray Wyatt thing?
No, it was just basically a brawl between all of them, and there were if I remember correctly, there were a bunch of other Wyatt family members that ended up showing up, just masked people that helped beat them up. It was just a brawl on top of some cars and stuff, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like this was.
With all that said, let's move into our first topic.
1.
Now, it has been announced that WWE Studios and TriStar are working together to create a Vince McMahon biopic. There's a lot of information that is leaked. None of it is confirmed. So I thought it would be fun for us to go ahead to cast it, pick a director, and name it for our version of this film. What we do know of what has been said is that the film is going to be called Pandemonium, but the three of us picked new names. But we do know that WWE Studios is involved, which means that Vince gets to put his stamp of approval. And supposedly a script leak, and that script is the most bonkers fictional telling of this story just ever. It's wonderful. It says that he found all these famous wrestlers just in random places. Junkyard Dog is a construction worker, Roddy Piper in jail, Andre the Giant is a chef at a Canadian French restaurant. He never wrestled before until Vince McMahon found him. It's glorious. I don't know what you guys are gonna do, but we're going to create for you listeners. My Vince McMahon biopic movie will be named Territory because I want it to be about the death of the territory system, Act 1, Act 2, Vince McMahon and Vince Sr. trying to deal with being in each other's family territory while WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania, goes off. And Act 3 would be the steroid scandal, which is the government getting in on Vince's territory. So, territory, 1, 2, 3. That's my thought process. So, my casting, of course, we gotta have Vince. I cast Josh Segarra. I don't know if you've seen him, but he's currently the villain in The Arrow. He's playing Prometheus.
Okay.
He's really funny. He's really attractive, and he's a really good actor. So he's a great pick. I think he is right on the cusp of being famous, and I think he'd do a great job. Because I didn't go for like a silly comedy. I actually trying to go for like The Wrestler, trying to go for a legit Oscar award nominated, potentially, biopic. So I went with Josh Segarra. Linda McMahon, I wanted Marina Baccarin. She's a great actress. I think she'd do a great job. Vince Sr. plays a large part in my film. And I was looking around for someone who I thought would be good. And you know who actually looks a surprising amount like Vince Sr. and is also a pretty well-known actor? Richard Gere. She's looking for that supporting actor nomination. And I thought Richard Gere could do a really good job. It'd be a pretty meaty role, even though he'll die in Act 2. Then I have 2 other roles. One of them is important because of my director. But then I think that Ted Turner's going to have to show up. He might only be like in 15 minutes of this movie, but I think Ted Turner's got to be somewhere. So I thought Alan Tudyk would do a really good job. He is a character actor. He sinks into everything. He was the pirate in Dodgeball. He's done a billion Disney voices. Most currently, the chicken in Moana, which is hilarious. And then you need a wrestler as your main wrestler character.
Yeah.
And I thought about a couple others. And originally I had Hulk Hogan, but when I was picking my director, I realized that my director really likes using Asian actors. What very famous Asian actor was a part of the first Asian wrestler was a part of the first WrestleMania, part of the territories, and part of the steroid trials, or at least could be made to be part of it? That's Ricky Steamboat. Plus, I think having another person of color in there would be really good. I think that all of that makes a lot of sense to me. So I actually put Ricky Steamboat as my lead wrestler character. And I cast him with Ian Anthony Dale. He's a Japanese-American actor I really, really like. I think he'd do a great job. If there was just going to be a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat movie, I'd cast Ian Anthony Dale as that character as well. So I think he'd just do an amazing job. And my director is Justin Lin. You might know him from Fast and Furious 5. He's done a couple other big action movies, one of the Star Trek movies. But most importantly to me, he made one of my favorite movies of all time, a drama called Better Luck Tomorrow. Justin Lin does a great job with comedy and character and drama, as well as action, which you need in a movie that's going to at least feature some wrestling, because we're going to have WrestleMania be a thing. That is my total package for the movie Territory, a Vince McMahon biopic.
Well, you casted way less people than I thought you would.
Yeah, I tried to keep it real small. I only wanted to cast the major characters. So I only cast 5.
I like that way of doing it way better than the way I did it.
How'd you do it then?
Let's see. Well, I'm looking at, because I'm not gonna go through this whole like 2-paragraph thing. Okay. The name of mine is After the Script, because wrestling is fake, and here's the stuff that goes on after the script ends. It mainly tells the story of Vince McMahon's rise to power, of taking over WWE and it becoming the huge powerhouse, and then WCW almost destroying it and winning the Monday Night War is what mine is about. It's about winning, almost having your whole company destroyed by WCW. So I have a lot of WCW. So I've got James Marsden as Vince McMahon.
That's Cyclops.
Yeah, he's Cyclops. He was in Hairspray. He's getting old now. But he's old in the way of, if he dyed his hair, he looks like he's 20 years younger. And then if he lets his hair his natural color, he looks like he's 20 years older. And he's really, really attractive and handsome. And I really, really like him. I think he's a really fantastic actor. I've got Felicity Huffman as Linda McMahon. She is a Emmy and Golden Globe winner. She was in Desperate Housewives. That's where she won her Emmy. But she became famous mainly from Transamerica. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard of it, from both the play and the film, where she is someone who is going trans and then finds out she has a kid, a son, and she goes through all this stuff. She won a Golden Globe for that. And not to say Linda McMahon kind of looks like a dude, but she kind of looks like a dude. Vince Sr. is the one I had the hardest time with, so I went with my favorite alive actor, because my favorite actor was Philip Seymour Hoffman, but I can't use him, unfortunately. So my favorite alive older actor, Anthony Hopkins. I don't think it's a great casting choice, too. But
I thought he looks the part too. Yeah,
well, that makes me feel a little bit better. And he wouldn't be around long, just towards the very beginning. So Anthony Hopkins would be there. You would just have to have him like sitting at his desk, and then maybe in one backstage segment, and then he dies. My Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, I had to cast both of them because I'm going to consider that their feud is going to be what lights the fire to help get WWF to major popularity. I have Robert Mallet as Andre the Giant. I don't know if you guys remember him. He was actually a wrestler. He has a really dumb name. Kurgan, the interrogator. Yeah, Kurgan. He looks a little bit older now than I would like for a younger
That's
Andre
hilarious.
the Giant.
Cam the Kurgan is Andre the Giant?
I think if you let his hair grow out, cut his beard, throw him out there as Andre the Giant, it would work really well. I have Travis Fimmel as Hulk Hogan. He's in all the he's in the Viking show right now. He's in Warcraft. Eric Dane as Ted Turner. Now, I don't really know who Eric Dane is, but Sarah, my wife, kept telling me, oh, you want Eric Dane. Eric Dane's a really great actor. He's apparently in Grey's Anatomy, and that's where he became super popular. And I looked him up, and he looks Ted Turner-ish. And then I have Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Eric Bischoff.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I'm actually pretty... And then finally, because I have Stephanie McMahon, because I would do the whole Stephanie McMahon Triple H love thing, because that would get Vince all, I don't want my daughter to marry a wrestler. I have Jenna Malone as Stephanie McMahon. She was in the Hunger Games. She was in Donnie Darko. She was the girl in Donnie Darko. That was a long time ago. She was in one of the funniest movies ever, Saved. If you don't know who she is, you should look her up. She's a really good... She's a really good dramatic actress. But that's the main cast for me, for my biopic. That will be directed by David O. Russell. He's done several biopics. I don't like his most recent stuff. I don't like Joy or Silver Linings Playbook. I think that those movies are trash. I don't like American Hustle. I didn't like that one. But The Fighter, I loved. I thought that was a wonderful movie. I liked I Heart Huckabees. I love Three Kings. I liked Spanking the Monkey. These are all movies that he directed and wrote, and they were all really, really good. So that is who I would pick to do it. And this question was incredibly hard, so I'm very glad that I'm done answering it.
I like that yours is focused a little farther into the future than mine. Michael, what do you got?
Oh boy. Well, I see that you two both took a very serious, analytical approach to this question, because boy, was I stuck.
Yeah, this is normally a wrestling podcast. I shouldn't force movies on both of you.
I do like films, but I am absolutely terrible at casting. That's why I stick to the writing bit. But so I had to go into with a concept in my head, and the concept I came up with was the fact that who should produce this film about Vince McMahon? Vince McMahon. So the title of the film, because every decision has to go by Vince himself. The title of the film is The Greatest Man in the World, an unbiased film.
Oh no! Here we go.
So
I like it.
For those worrying after And Then There Were None, I've actually only cast 5 people.
That's good for us, and good for your voice.
I was stumped. So for Vince, I figured that he also wants to be a James Bond, so I figured that he'd cast himself as Pierce Brosnan, because he might, at this stage in his career, he's probably cheaper than Daniel Craig, and the other lot are a bit old. Given it's Vince casting it, he'd want to cast Linda McMahon as somebody really, really attractive so he could boast about it. Knowing Vince, he'd probably like, hey, why can't we get Kate Hepburn? Mr. McMahon, Kate Hepburn actually died 14 years ago. God damn it! So I just went randomly for Kate Winslet as a random actress my wife quite likes. Gorilla Monsoon, I thought somebody of stature they could sell the film around, and someone who would actually probably do any film in the world if you paid him, who's getting on a bit, but Robert De Niro.
Oh, is Monsoon? Yeah, that's
like
a good
that.
one. That's a good cast.
Yeah, it's Gorilla.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Vince Senior, I thought I was trying to go for somebody who's been in lots of stuff. I actually essentially went for someone who my mother never shuts up about, and she would go and see this film if he was in it, and that's another Vince D'Onofrio.
Great.
And the only other person I cast was Hulk Hogan, and I thought there's only one man that can play in the world who can play Hulk Hogan, and that's Hulk Hogan. And for director, I have images in my head as Vince McMahon as Mr. Burns. You know, get Steven Spielberg. We can't. Get his non-union Mexican equivalent. But failing that, I always think Vince McMahon's head is right in the 80s. So he would look to someone who's big in the 80s, even if they've done nothing since. Which is why my first choice for the director is John McTiernan, who directed...
I thought you'd say that. I thought so. Oh.
Who directed Predator. They're done.
Time to go to topic number 2.
All right, topic number 2 is my topic. This is a 2-part question. It is, what was the worst Raw general manager angle / storyline, whichever word you are more comfortable using, and then the best Raw general manager storyline. So this is specific to Raw and their general managers and storylines. So that means it's not just this is the general manager I hated most, but what storyline they were involved in that you actually hated or loved the most. I guess we'll start all three of us answering the worst Raw general manager storyline question, and then we can all do the best one because I like ending on the better notes. Does that sound good with you guys? I guess I'll go first for the worst Raw general manager storyline. My pick is Sheriff Stone Cold Steve Austin. So this was after Stone Cold Steve Austin retired from wrestling. Linda McMahon decides that Eric Bischoff needs some help, and she throws in Stone Cold Steve Austin to be basically a wrestler, but he doesn't really wrestle. So he rides around on a 4-wheeler, and he drinks lots of beer, and he flips off all the heels. And the what chant is the loudest it's ever been, which is the worst chant in all of wrestling. And he basically just gets involved in all the heels things and makes sure that he walks out looking the best and not the face wrestlers. So this goes on for a while of him beating people up. Christian took the brunt of it. Christian got beat up a lot during all this. And then Linda actually comes in and tells Stone Cold Steve Austin that he can't put his hands on any wrestlers unless he's physically provoked. So now Austin is going around trying to get physically provoked. So he gets all up into people's faces and challenges them and says, "Why don't you physically provoke me?" And then the crowd goes, "What?" And then Austin goes, "Why don't you physically provoke me? I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you." And he does that for a couple of months. And it's not entertaining at all. And so then Eric Bischoff comes up with the idea. I can't remember if this is Eric Bischoff's idea or Austin's, but the match is made at Survivor Series that it's Team Eric versus Team Austin. If Eric's team wins, Steve Austin is gone. He doesn't have any more power. If Austin wins, he can put his hands on whoever he chooses for whatever reason and just beat up people all he wants. And so this is like the big Raw match. Everyone's super into it because, oh, yeah, Stone Cold's going to get to beat up people again and not really wrestle. Eric Bischoff wins. It's actually one of my favorite Survivor Series matches of all time. This is Survivor Series 2003. It's absolutely wonderful. Batista makes a big impact in it. He doesn't wrestle, but it's when Batista really starts influencing things, and he's super great in it. So Austin gets fired, but he doesn't really get fired because Mick Foley starts walking around with a petition, and he gets Stone Cold Steve Austin his job back. So Stone Cold Steve Austin is back after a couple months. He can beat up as many people as he wants. They just ignore the fact that he wasn't allowed to do that. I guess since he was fired and then he gets his job back, technically that rule no longer applies. So then he books Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. He's a special referee. And the whole entire match is really about Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then he stuns both of them at the end. And then he drinks beer over their knocked out bodies. And then he leaves wrestling again a couple months later. And it is just terrible. I'm already not an Austin fan. But having Austin just be the top babyface as a general manager, beating up everybody and doing his shtick, but not being allowed to wrestle is just such a waste of TV time. So that is my pick for the worst Raw general manager storyline is Sheriff Austin storyline.
Yep.
Yeah, boy.
I also don't like Austin.
Well, what did make yours?
it's very hard to not say that the anonymous Raw General Manager storyline was the worst of all time. It was terrible. It lasted for so long, and just like your story made the top babyface be a non-wrestler, this one made the top heel of the company be a non-wrestler in Michael Cole. And just like yours had a terrible WrestleMania match where one non-wrestler took over and made the whole thing about him, this one did too, except this one had Michael Cole have a 1-0 record at WrestleMania. Everything about the... Okay, so at one point, after doing all the guest hosts of Raw and stuff, they decided to have an anonymous Raw general manager, because the general managers would get beat up, essentially, is the storyline. So they have a laptop out next to the commentary. And every now and again, you'd hear him, and then Michael Cole would have to go out and, excuse me, the anonymous Raw general manager nonsense. And he'd look at the laptop, but of course he wouldn't read anything written on the laptop. No, the script was printed on the keys on a piece of paper, and he'd read from that. So you could see him reading from a script on a laptop. Is a piece of paper that they folded into the laptop. Why not? Why isn't it just on the laptop? The laptop was on. They made sure that the laptop was on. You can see that the screen was on. And they even put like a Microsoft Word up so that there was light. But no, what could have redeemed it was at least having a good payoff. Like the original intention was to have Kevin Nash be the anonymous Raw general manager. But then for some reason that didn't happen. And then they were going to actually have Cole be the anonymous Raw general manager, but then that didn't happen. And then finally, it was going to be Hornswoggle, except Hornswoggle would reveal himself to be a cigar-chomping Vince McMahon parody, because he is McMahon's son, canonically. So
That's
it
right.
was going to be that he was pretending he couldn't talk, and, yeah, see, I'm the anonymous Raw general manager, see, I'm 3 foot tall, see, and be a terrible gangster. But Hornswoggle, the actor, couldn't do it, so they just decided to scrap all ideas and let the thing go on for another 6 months. And then finally, it was revealed that it was regular Hornswoggle, and then that's the end. It's the most terrible, anticlimactic storyline, just from a storyline standpoint, let alone all the stories that spun out of it. Oh my god, it makes my head hurt.
Update on the Hornswoggle storyline. According to the Wikipedia, and I looked it up because I thought I remembered them clearing it up and saying that he wasn't Vince's son. And maybe Michael remembers the specifics, but apparently it was that Finley claims that Hornswoggle is actually Finley's son. And then it is confirmed that Hornswoggle is indeed Finley's son and was never Vince McMahon's son. Oh, good. I don't remember all of that.
I don't remember any of that.
But I could have sworn they found a way to wiggle out of the storyline. But this doesn't exactly say like how they confirmed it. But I thought that they had found a way out.
They found it out on screen after an episode of Raw where JBL bullied a midget, because, that's not going to look dodgy at all.
The one thing that the anonymous Raw general manager had going for it was in those very few beginning months before it got leaked that WWE had no idea who they were going to have take over, and they were making it up as they went along, trying to figuring out the mystery and all that. Was a lot of fun.
To go, is it Stone Cold? Is it whatever? Like, that was interesting. And then as all the chips fall, and then another year and a half goes by. Oh my god!
It is incredibly disappointing, but it had a fun start. And Edge, there was some really good Edge versus the laptop segments that were super
fun. Can't agree with calling those good.
Oh, I like those. Edge is hilarious.
No sir.
But no, it is a terrible, terrible thing.
All right,
that happened.
Michael, what's your worst?
I'm really happy that Jessel just went on at great length about the anonymous Raw general manager, because that saves some of my poor asthmatic lungs, because my worst Raw general manager is the anonymous Raw general manager for pretty much all of the reasons he just went into great detail about.
Which anonymous Raw general manager storyline is the worst actual story coming out of that for you?
All of them.
All right. I guess we'll move on to the best then. This is the best Raw General Manager storyline. And I will go first again. My favorite Raw General Manager storyline comes out of Survivor Series 2004. Another Survivor Series based storyline. Look at me go. Eric Bischoff is going to be taking some time away. And so Evolution is feuding with Orton, Jericho, Benoit, and Maven. Triple H is currently the World Heavyweight Champion. Big surprise there. That never is a thing. And the stipulation is the winning team at Survivor Series gets to run Raw. Each member gets to run it for 1 week for the next 4 weeks. Now, I don't know my history super well, but I'm pretty sure that's the first time that has ever been done. And it made Survivor Series, the big elimination person match, mean something. And it gave it a ton of power. And if I had my way, I would make it every single year. That's what the prize is for winning at Survivor Series, is that your winning team gets to run Raw 1 week each in the next couple of weeks, because that is super fun. So the good guys win, and they all start booking their shows. Maven books himself in a title match immediately against Triple H, and it's easily the best match Maven has ever had, is, in my opinion, the title match against Triple H. But Triple H is able to weasel his way out of it and not lose the belt. Chris Benoit is the next one, and he tries to book himself in a steel cage match with Triple H, but Triple H makes all these fake doctor's notes and gets all kinds of fake phone calls called in to get him out of the match. So he goes in a cage match against Edge instead, and that's another great match. Randy Orton is next up, and he's not allowed to face Triple H because he lost like too many rematches or something, so there's a stipulation. So he puts together the Battle Royal, and the winners get to face Triple H, and Chris Benoit and Edge both win it. So then the main event is Chris Benoit versus Edge versus Triple H, which Chris Benoit and Edge both win the match through a pin submission combo McDo. And so the title becomes vacant, which then leads to the Elimination Chamber match. So throughout all this time, all the good guys are getting shots because they've been held back by Evolution and Bischoff. So the IC title changes hands. Lita and Trish Stratus have the Raw main event match where Lita beats Trish for the belt. The tag titles change hands. Regal and Ying win the belts back. Chris Jericho gets to run a show, and he runs a really silly one at the end. It's got a Fozzy concert in it. But it was just a great original breath of fresh air thing to do for a Raw General Manager storyline. And it made every single week feel super, super important. You didn't know what was going to happen. It led to the birth of babyface Batista throughout all these weeks and into the Elimination Chamber. And I wish they would do it every single year. So that is my best Raw
I remember
General
that
Manager
happening,
story.
but I was a SmackDown guy. I didn't have cable, so I could only watch SmackDown at the time. I read all the results, but I could only watch SmackDown, so I never got to watch it firsthand. I'll have to go back and watch that little series, because you're right, that month you named off 1 billion matches that are on so many compilations and so many things. They're so important.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I feel like I completely misconstrued what Lenny was looking for in this topic. However, I'll just have to double down on it here. See, the whole concept of the authority figure on charge of the main show, I don't know if the trope setter is Jack Tunney, because I've not seen the 60s TV shows, and for all I know there could have been someone before him, but it was him, and then there was like Gorilla Monsoon and Sergeant Slaughter and Sean when he could be bothered showing up. You needed a trope starter, shall we say, and they had one way back in 2000 called Mick Foley. And the reason that I'm going to say that he is definitely the best is because ever since they have been struggling desperately to ape what happened that summer with everyone, including bringing back Mick Foley 3 times to the role, and they've never been able to recapture that. He was it was called the commissioner back then, but it's the same job overall for summer 2000, and the best storyline in that time period was the fact that he kept getting sort of, shall we say, gently harassing in the Mick Foley style young heels that he had a sort of quasi relationship with before, and that would have been Edge and Christian and Kurt Angle. But coming out of that, also he wound up becoming the guest referee when the Angle Stephanie Triple H thing came to a head, and it's Foley who's sort of intermingling with Angle wound up getting him his first title shot, which he won. So that was the best. I think that was the best storyline at the time, and it's the best. He's the best GM of Raw because even 17 years on, they are still trying to get that going again, and they've never succeeded.
I definitely appreciated that. That was the way, if you're going to have a powerful babyface general manager who's messing with the heels, Mick Foley did it in a way that made other babyfaces benefit from it and look better off of it, in which Stone Cold Steve Austin did the exact opposite. So I'll definitely agree that, that 2000 Foley commissioner run was, that was one of those things that when I was watching WCW at the time, all my friends that were watching WWF, that's what they were talking about, was Commissioner Foley and stuff. So I still knew about that. I was shown, tapes over at my friend's house and stuff about Commissioner Foley. That was like the big deal.
They've just not talked it, and given how many people were sort of raised up the totem pole that year through interactions with him, that's what the GM should be in my book, not somebody who's like power mad or just another random heel. I'm kind of hoping that's what Kurt Angle's going to be like long term, but it's too early to say.
Yeah, I can see that if they keep at it and they don't pull him and throw him as make him a wrestler already. Give him a couple years. Like, I really like the fact that when Golden Truth were like, hey, we want a title shot, he was just like, look, your win-loss record's not good enough, but you'll have a chance next week.
Yeah, I agree.
It wasn't something all wacky, and it was like a businessman. It was a nice businessman trying to help run a business.
I am not a fan of the authority figure storyline. The WWE has doubled down on it for so long. I hate it. I wish we could go back to that being just a side thing. The Jack Tunney days where Jack Tunney didn't matter. He was just there for the big deal things. Because I can't stand seeing these guys all over the place all the time. Now, to be fair, I think Shane and Kurt and Daniel Bryan are all doing it perfectly right now. They are tiny sections of the show. They have power, but that power doesn't matter. That is the continuity, and I really like that. But I've never been a fan of the authority thing. I don't care for it. It's supposed to make everything feel more grounded, and to me it makes everything feel more cheesy. So it was very hard for me to find a best Raw General Manager storyline, because I don't like the vast majority of them. So I had to go for a deep cut. I don't know if this will actually count as a story. I also don't know if it will count as being on Raw, and I don't know if it will count as being a GM. But
oh gosh.
But for me, the best, anything that has to be involved with a Raw GM is 3-minute warning. I talked about it before, but 3-minute warning was a hilarious concept. It was great. Bischoff, show me what you can do. And that's great. The idea that here, anyone can have a chance, show me what you can do. And even though he was a heel, in D&D terms, he was always lawful evil, because he always gave them their time. And if you didn't impress, all right, fine, your 3 minutes are up. And then 3-minute warnings hits the ring and destroys you. 3-minute warning was great. They were like a force of nature. They weren't heel or face. They were just a force of nature. They eventually became a bit too much for me. They eventually became like an actual heel tag team, and I didn't like that as much. But I do like them. My storyline in particular was a SmackDown storyline that ruined one of my favorite tag teams of all time, and it was saved.
No, I know where you're going.
It was saved by 3-minute warning. You see, Billy and Chuck were an ambiguously gay duo. They were two beautiful men who had a beautiful fashion advisor and hair cuttery Enrico, and they feuded with Too Cool, and they were the tag champs. They were in one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time that I talked about, the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match. They were a fantastic team at getting heat. Their theme song was amazing. Well, eventually they actually doubled down on them being gay without ever saying the word gay, and then it went too far. And eventually they got booked into having a marriage proposal. Like, they were actually going to have a ceremony for each other, which at the time was actually like kind of shocking and really cool. Now, you hear me say all these past tense words. And that's because it ended up being terrible. Because what they did was a garbage Vince Russo style worked shoot where they're in the ring with this old crusty pastor and the two guys come up and then eventually one of the two grabs the mic and goes, look, I can't go through with this. All this is fake. We couldn't do any of this. Ruining the character and the gimmick and trashing one of my favorite, most beloved, both heels and when they were babyface. They ruin all of it. Well, the pastor then says, well, I guess I'll just give you 3 minutes. And then he rips off his face mask to reveal he's Eric Bischoff. And out of nowhere, 3-minute warning comes out to save this terrible work shoot. This terrible Billy and Chuck thing beats the shit out of everybody, leading to Eric Bischoff versus Stephanie McMahon. Raw GM versus SmackDown GM, which was the first time that had ever happened. And that was mind-boggling. I hate the work shoot part. I love that everybody involved in the work shoot got punished in 3 minutes. So that's my favorite.
Do you know the really funny thing about that? Eric Bischoff, with his makeup and everything, was done up as the Reverend backstage all afternoon, and all the wrestlers were around him, and none of them, including folk like Chris Jericho, twigged that it was Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, it was an amazing reveal. The makeup looked amazing. It was so good.
I hate the segment for very obvious reasons, but Eric Bischoff's acting in it is bloody amazing.
I definitely think that covers the what it was asked of the question. It was a Raw general manager using that 3-minute warning to make sure things go in the way he wants to. Absolutely. And it was wonderful.
Well, I'm glad that you approve.
Because then you had Stephanie McMahon, the next week, couple weeks later, come out and in disguise protesting the hot lesbian action stuff, and she tries to do the same thing on Raw. I don't know if you saw that since you weren't watching Raw, but they tried to repeat it and it failed miserably.
Okay, well, I think we did well. It is time for topic number 3.
I thought this would be nice and simple, which is my view of booking a title change which never took place. Any company, anywhere, as long as it's like 2004 or earlier,
yeah,
roughly.
pre-2005.
Who, where, when, and how do you fit it into the wrestling timeline? So, for mine, I want to take you back to the year 1996. There wasn't a very good WrestleMania that year. We've already discussed. It has a main event that's 62 minutes long. Oh, goodness gracious me. But they also misuse a lot of the workhorses in the company that year. Yeah, I want to take advantage of Billy Gunn getting injured because they had a tag title tournament. Not a battle royal, as you might suspect, but a tournament which was, in real life, ended with the Godwins and the Body Donnas. The tag title division was bloody
Body
shite
Donnas
in
had
96.
Carino in it, right? No, Candido.
No, it's...
Yeah.
Candido.
I got the wrong name, but yeah, Candido in it. Okay.
Candido and Dr. Tom Pritchard now playing Zip. It was meant to be Rad Radford, i.e. Louis Piccoli, but he got sacked for drug issues and then died in 98, I think. So I was just going to reconfigure the brackets and make the tag title decider on the WrestleMania card, because it was on the pre-show and nobody saw it, and I've actually still never seen the match because it's nigh impossible to get a hold of. I think it was on the VHS, but it wasn't a great pay-per-view, so I never bought it. So on one side of the brackets, we had Savio Vega and Razor Ramon, but then Razor Ramon got suspended because he was going to WCW. And then they had Austin and Steve Austin come out as his replacement, and they got eliminated and beat each other up and started their feud. But what I've actually done here is have them win the match, and then Austin injures Savio Vega. So his team has got to the final, but he doesn't have a partner. And on the other side of the bracket, I'm having Owen and Bulldog get through to the final, and I'm completely ignoring the Godwins and the Body Donnas. Now, at the same time here, over in WCW, there was a little incident where it can be summed up in the phrase, "I respect you, Booker Man." A young man called Brian Pillman, who was doing a loose cannon gimmick, and he managed to convince WCW that the best way to kind of make this a work shoot look realistic was to give him an actual release from the company. At which point he then went to ECW for a cup of tea and then signed with the WWE. So what I have decided to do here is remove ECW from the picture and just have Brian Pillman show up at WrestleMania 12. Because he has no contract, he can do that. So what we have is Brian Pillman and Steve Austin versus Owen and Bulldog for the tag titles at WrestleMania 12. Pillman's in full-on loose cannon mode. Austin's got his loner thing, but they have a great match because there's 4 great workers there, and Austin and Pillman win the tag belts. But there's tensions in the team, and Owen and Bulldog win the belts back in a rematch at Good Friends Better Enemies in April 1996, because the events at Beware of Dog and the King of the Ring are obviously too important for Bulldog and Austin, so I had to get the title change in at the first pay-per-view available. This then has Pillman v Austin in the background, but I think Brian Pillman's issues will probably still come up. Austin's issues with the Hearts, Owen and Bulldog, they then blend into his issues with Brett later in the year and give a more organic entry into the Brett v Austin feud and the Brett Owen Bulldog reunion, instead of him calling out Brett randomly after fighting jobbers for 6 months, and the Hearts just deciding to reunite because, Vince Russo took over. What this then does is gives Owen and Bulldog, who won the tag titles in September 96 and are widely credited as having saved the division from absolute oblivion. Case in point, Body Donners versus Godwins. Countless Billy Gunn title matches, Zip, Billy Gunn, Cloudy, the male Sonny impersonator, Billy Gunn. There's a lot of dreadful stuff. There was also Billy Gunn title matches. So all I've done is once I've had this title change, I'm bringing Owen and Bulldog's title win forward a few months, and they can kind of hold the tag title division together until they lose them, as they did in real life in May 1997 on Raw, when Austin and Shawn Michaels win the belts. And it also gives that whole run a sort of circular nature, because they won them off of Austin and a partner he didn't know if he could trust, and they then lose them to Austin and a partner he doesn't know if he can trust. I'm also wondering perhaps if Pillman doesn't fuck up his ankle in this car crash, because it can't happen because it happened when he was in ECW. He's in WWE in this timeline. I don't know if he might have been able to go on for a bit longer, but I sort of feel that his death was largely hereditary as much as related to pain pills. However, we might have been able to get some pretty good matches out of him, which we didn't get any of them because he was done in because of the car crash and the painkiller addiction in the last year of his life. So yeah, there was lots of options for this, but I thought that's the one I decided to go with.
I like the return of the blonde.
I really like it. And the fact that you actually came up with a way to potentially extend a wrestler's life to wrestle in matches that we have never got to see is fantastic. That is genius. I like Pillman. Pillman makes me happy.
He never clicked for me, but I really like this story. I like the choice. I think it is definitely a better story, because that's what I aimed for too. I aimed for taking a terrible story and fixing it to be a great story. Lenny, you want me to go next, or do you want to go? Because I don't know what yours is.
I was going to go next, but after you said that, your setup about the story, I feel like you need to go next after you were like, fixing a bad story and making it great. It makes a lot more sense for you to explain that.
If you want, I'll do it. You see, I took on the very difficult task of trying to fix WCW at the end of 2000.
You stuck with it.
I did stick with it. This is after the David Arquette win, which I think the story was poorly written, but I do think it was a good idea. So in continuing with that idea, let's move to the next terrible idea they had. We're going to go a little bit before that, but ultimately the story is that Vince Russo won the title through a fluke, and then he vacates it the next week. It's terrible. The Vince Russo is 10-0 in WCW 2000. By the way,
I did not know that. That is very upsetting.
I know that because I listened to the commentary, and holy shit, he had 9-0, and then the night he won the title, he won. So that is 10-0. ridiculous.
Wow.
So let's move backwards a little bit. I want to erase all of that badness. I couldn't fix everything because I could only change one title. And I had to seamlessly put it back, unfortunately. So WCW still has to end the way it ended. But I think I gave us about 4 months of really good title matches that makes the title matter. On August 7th, 2000, Lance Storm competed against Booker T for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. At this time, Lance Storm was the Cruiserweight Champion, the Hardcore Champion, and the U.S. Heavyweight Champion. And if he beat Booker T, he would become the first ever modern American Grand Slam champion. He would be the only wrestler in modern American wrestling to hold the 4 major single titles in a company all at the same time. So that happens in Japan a lot more often, but that has never happened in modern American wrestling. They made a big deal about it on commentary. They also made a big deal about how Lance Storm had Booker T's number because Booker T's leg was injured in the single leg crab that was Lance Storm's finish. Absolutely should have won in this match. I went and I watched that match, and you know what? Even though it was cut a little short for time, that was a damn good match. They had some really good chemistry. But Lance Storm did not win. WCW did not take the chance to do one of the most impressive, one of the most important things they could have done in wrestling history. So let's change that. Lance Storm wins the World Heavyweight Championship on August 7th, 2000, on an episode of Nitro, the 1 week before New Blood Rising, becoming the only man in North American history, or at least America and Canada. Mexico might have had this happen, but the only one I can think of who's ever held the 4 major singles titles at the same time. You have Lance Storm win the title. So what does that mean for New Blood Rising? Because New Blood Rising had Booker T versus Jarrett for the title. Well, let's go ahead and make that match no longer the main event, and let's make that match now be its no number 1 contendership. And you take the Lance Storm Mike Awesome match that is for the U.S. title, and you make that the big title, you make that the main event, as well as making it for both major titles, because those are the only 2 that Mike Awesome qualifies for. So now you take what was the best match on that card, the Canadians Rules match, as Lance Storm weaseled his way into retaining the belt, as Mike Awesome pinned him, but then the referee is informed, no, Canadian Rules. It is a 5 count pin. Mike Awesome wins by count out. And then Canadian Rules, no. It's a 20 count to get back to the ring. Lance Storm cheats and is caught cheating, and then no. Canadian Rules, it's DQs are okay, so on and so forth. It's an amazing match. I highly suggest everybody watch it. It's phenomenal. Lance Storm wins. He has both titles. He has all 4 titles. He reigns supreme at the end. We have a new heel that we can hate, our number 1 heel in the company. Next night on Nitro, what happened in actual history is Lance Storm gave up the 2 titles he had, because remember, at this point, he only had 3 titles. He gave up the Cruiserweight title, bequeathing it to Elix Skipper, and he gave up the Hardcore title, bequeathing it to Carl Ouellet, giving him the Hardcore title, and that created Team Canada. Well, if you know any WCW history, Mike Awesome eventually joins Team Canada, but before he did that in regular world, Mike Awesome had a terrible fat chick Thrilla gimmick, and then he had the That 70s Mike gimmick. Gosh. So let's ignore both of those and have him switch sides on that night and get bequeathed the U.S. title, Canadian title, there. So we have now changed all that. So now we've fixed a lot of the timeline. Every U.S. title match is now going to have Mike Awesome in it from this point forward instead of Lance Storm. And the title will still switch hands where it normally would versus General Erection at Halloween Havoc 2000. It'll just be Mike Awesome instead of Lance Storm. We even still have Jim Duggan turn heel and join Team Canada. All that still happens. Just Mike Awesome now plays that role so that we can have...
I was going to say, I actually like the Duggan turn, so I'm glad that that's still in there.
Oh yeah, the Team Canada stuff was the best thing going on in WCW during that time. So let's make it be the main event. Let's make it be what's going on. Now we can focus on Lance Storm now in the main title. The next pay-per-view is Fall Brawl 2000. The Jeff Jarrett, Mike Awesome match, that doesn't happen. That saves a ton of money because that match included the Buffalo Bills and Gary Coleman. Because if you want to learn anything, it's that Jeff Jarrett and celebrities don't go hand in hand. So let's save WCW a lot of money. That match doesn't happen. They don't waste all their money getting in the Buffalo Bills and Gary Coleman to screw over Jeff Jarrett for no reason. Lance Storm is now added to the Caged Heat match, the Booker T, Kevin Nash match for the title. So it is now a triple threat cage match. So it actually does have a reason to be called a Caged Heat match instead of just being a regular cage match. And we have that match end basically exactly the same way it does, except our heel, Lance Storm, sneaking away at the end. See, that match ended with Kevin Nash trying to jackknife Booker T blocking it, countering it, hitting the bookend, 1, 2, 3. Well, while that all happens exactly the same, except Lance Storm sneaks his way out of the match and wins just before Booker T can. Lance Storm retains, continuing this Booker T Lance Storm feud. On the September 25th episode of Nitro, this is the infamous cage match. It's actually a Hell in a Cell match, but the rules are cage match rules. Whatever. Russo wins that match. So that didn't happen. Let's replace Russo with Lance Storm. This is, we replace all of the locker room coming out shenanigans. All of that's done. Let them just have a great match inside this cell. Up until, this is also last chance for Booker T. If he loses, he can never challenge Lance Storm for the title again. So the match is just a good match, and then right at the end, you still have Booker T almost leave, except now we switch it to be Lance Storm almost leaves, but then here comes Goldberg. Because Goldberg, instead of picking Vince Russo to be next, he picked Lance Storm to be next. He comes for Lance Storm, he walks in. As that happens, Scott Steiner comes out, who stops Booker T from exiting, slamming the door in his head. Lance Storm is running around the ring trying to get out, and we have that same amazing spot, because it really is. Vince Russo had some great ideas for how to finish the matches in some really incredible ways. He just overbooked them. So let's continue to have the finish where Goldberg spears Lance Storm out of the cell just before Booker T can exit the cell. So technically Lance Storm wins. Even though Booker T should have won, he doesn't because of Goldberg. And Lance Storm once again weasels his way out of it and continues to hold on to the World Heavyweight Championship. This sets up Halloween Havoc 2000. Halloween Havoc 2000, we now have, like I said, Mike Awesome faces General Erection, and he loses the title there. Booker T versus Steiner is the same match, just no longer for the title. Since it ended in DQ anyway, the match doesn't matter. Jarrett Sting match is just cut for time. That match doesn't matter. Let's cut it.
It's a Jarrett match. Get it out of there.
And then we have Goldberg versus Lance Storm. Because of Mike Awesome's help and Team Canada's help, Lance Storm is able to retain over Goldberg, a feat that everyone thought would be impossible, which would be even more heat on him. Goldberg was, at the time that this was happening, Goldberg was rebuilding his undefeated streak, which is a terrible storyline. That storyline is bad. So let's just drop that. Goldberg has already lost his streak. No need to try to repeat it again. We won't talk about it. Goldberg loses to Lance Storm by some kind of shenanigans with Mike Awesome's help. Probably an awesome bomb off the top so that Lance Storm can win it. In a perfect world, I'd have Lance Storm tap out Goldberg to actually make him look strong. But Lance Storm doesn't need to look strong because he's been sneaking away with his wins this whole time, so it'd be okay. This leads to Mayhem 2000. Mayhem 2000, we have Scott Steiner, who was originally versus Booker T in a terrible match. It's just bad. It's just so bad. Especially because the fans wanted to cheer for Steiner beating the hell out of Booker T. So you know what? If you replace Booker T with Lance Storm, who the fans hate, then Steiner's just a legit babyface. And that's what happens here. Steiner beats the hell out of him. The fans cheer him anyway. And Steiner, we go back into the old timeline with Steiner making Lance Storm tap out here. Steiner wins the title at Mayhem 2000. We are back in the regular WCW storyline. That is my historical title change. One of the most important that should have happened and never did, and fixes a whole ton of terrible matches and stories, saving WCW a lot of money, and potentially saving the company.
My friends and I were so big Lance Storm marks at this point in time, 2000, that the only way that I could agree with giving who you give a title to more is if you somehow found a way to push Chris Kanyon in the middle of all this.
Oh man, if I had the time, I would have. The saddest thing about this whole thing is that I removed the San Francisco 49ers match, because I actually really liked that match. We talked about it before. I actually really liked that, but that can't happen in this timeline. That's unfortunate.
That is a worth it sacrifice, I would say. Mine is, since I was told 2005 was the cutoff, and then I discussed it with Jess, and we decided 2005 WrestleMania was the cutoff. Mine is 2004 to 2005 WrestleMania. And mine tries to accomplish three things. I'm going to try to make John Cena a bigger star. And I'm going to... a bigger star, a more accepted star, I guess is the better word. Right. I'm going to try and give Eddie Guerrero a title run that he should have had to begin with. And I'm going to make sure John Bradshaw Layfield never gets a heavyweight belt that he gets to keep an entire year. So, 2004, Eddie Guerrero's got the title. Mine's going to be shorter than the others. And Eddie Guerrero's got the title. John Cena's the United States title. JBL, in the real world, he did some border patrol thing, and Kurt Angle just awards him the number one contendership. He gives him a Great American Award and says, "You are now the number one contender." And that is how JBL starts his storyline with Eddie Guerrero. But here, Angle says, "You are now the number one contender." And then John Cena's music hits, and he comes out and he says, "No, the Great American Award should go through the United States champion." And so John Cena immediately pulls JBL away from any type of main event feud. And you get John Cena and JBL to feud for... I mean, I don't care. If John Cena can feud with JBL in the cabinet for the rest of 2004, that is fine. Let's just take that feud that was just for a little bit of 2005 and let John Cena and JBL go at it 2004 all year. That is perfectly fine. Keeps him away from Eddie Guerrero. So Dudley Boys come over. They're heels. They become Kurt Angle's boys. So Eddie Guerrero starts off Judgment Day. He fights one of the Dudley Boys. He beats him. Next pay-per-view, he fights the other Dudley boy, beats him too. So Kurt Angle's really trying to figure out ways he can get the belt off Eddie Guerrero, because that's why JBL won the belt to begin with, because Angle wanted the belt off Eddie. So he throws the Big Show at him. He can throw Booker T at him. Charlie Haas, who I think I had a whole title reign for Charlie Haas, but I decided to go against it. So you still have Angle trying to get the belt off Eddie, but he can't do it. So then he comes back. He's going to wrestle Eddie Guerrero at SummerSlam, and he's going to try and get the belt from him. So Kurt Angle wrestles Eddie Guerrero at SummerSlam. Match still goes like the way it did at SummerSlam 2004. Angle has come back completely refreshed and way more aggressive. He knows all of Eddie's tricks, so he beats Eddie Guerrero for the belt. It goes into Survivor Series, where Team Angle, without Kurt Angle, is going to face Team Eddie Guerrero without Eddie Guerrero. And if Eddie's team wins, Eddie Guerrero gets one more shot at the title at the end of the pay-per-view. So that's the first match on the card. Eddie Guerrero's team tries their hardest, and they pull it off. Eddie Guerrero fights Kurt Angle at the very end of the show, and he wins the belt back. And he carries that belt through 2005. He beats Angle in the rematch at Royal Rumble. So Angle throws himself into the Royal Rumble match, and he does this whole thing with Shawn Michaels. So Kurt Angle can do his feud with Shawn Michaels in 2005. John Cena wins it. So now you've got Eddie Guerrero and John Cena having I'm the new guy, and I want to, kind of like the Roman Reigns Undertaker thing, but it will be a lot better, where John Cena's, I'm the new guy, and I'm gonna take over the yard.
So you have Cena win the 2005 Rumble now instead of Batista?
Yeah. Cena wins 2005 Rumble. He's gonna challenge Eddie for the belt. He respects Eddie. So this is not, there's no heel in it, which they've done a couple of times. It doesn't always work, but this is Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero can make any match work. So you have Eddie Guerrero and John Cena going into WrestleMania 21, and you have Eddie Guerrero put over John Cena in John Cena's best ever WrestleMania match. And then so Cena leaves as the champion in a really great match with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero had a year-long storyline involving the title. Nobody knows what JBL is doing at this point, but he's not in a main event at WrestleMania, so everybody's happy. And that is how I rewrite history for the WWE.
I'm trying to think how I feel about it. It's hard to remove my immediate from it because of
With Cena beating Eddie.
Because I'm fine with Eddie putting over Cena. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just making that be another notch for Cena. It's the same notch though, and that's what I'm having a hard time with. Because that's the point in time where everyone was getting sick of Cena. That was the point in time where people were starting to boo him, and him winning the Rumble is what's giving me the problems. It's what's making me, what do I think? And it's hard to divorce the fact that Eddie just straight up didn't want the title and he wanted it off of him as soon as possible. But that's, this is fantasy land. This is Rebook history, and I really like your intention. I really like the idea of it. I don't know. It's a nice. I have some nice complicated emotions about your thought process. I like it. And
the feud, more stuff happens after the WrestleMania in 2005. But since we decided the cutoff is WrestleMania 2005, I am legally not allowed to say what would happen.
Right.
Do you not think that Eddie could get a real WrestleMania caliber match out of Cena in these circumstances?
Cena's wrestling style is main event WWE style. So when Cena wants a great match, he has plenty of great matches. He has a lot of poop matches too, but he has plenty of great ones. When Cena's motivated, he has plenty of great ones. So I feel like he'd be motivated. The hard part for me is all the twists and turns of the double babyface part of it, the not having Cena going up against JBL, who was a despicable heel at the time. Does that actually make Cena? Would Cena come across better for having a better match, or come across better for having a better?
Cena's story? You still had JBL doing all that, but Cena took care of him during the year during the United States feud, so you don't have to. I mean, that feud was not a main event caliber feud.
No, I don't disagree with
JBL.
you. I don't disagree with you.
Because I do think it helped John Cena that he wrestled the mega, because JBL did become a mega heel.
Yeah.
He didn't have any good matches,
yes,
but Cena beating him was good, and that's why I would still have that be a part of 2004.
We do
because
lose
I do
the
think that
good Eddie Guerrero JBL matches, because as much as I don't like JBL, the cage match and the strap match are both good matches.
And one of our listeners, Joe, is going to hate this, but we would also lose Vince McMahon running into the ring at the end of the 2005 Rumble and tearing his quad as he tries to figure it out, because John Cena would win it without any controversy.
Oh man, and then no Batista win there. I don't know. I got a lot of complicated emotions here.
That's good.
What do you think, Michael?
I like it, but I'm reminded that Eddie Guerrero really couldn't handle the spotlight, and the shift to JBL was his request and not a Vinceism.
I think when it comes down to it, the only part of it I don't like is Cena winning that Rumble, which isn't an important part of the story. That he could easily be in the title feud like he was already without him winning the Rumble. I think that's the only part that puts me like a little bit on the halfway. Beyond that, I'm like, you know what? I think that works. Because I'd love to see just more Eddie high caliber matches. I do think Eddie Cena would have been a great match at WrestleMania. Just keep Batista as the winner of the 2005 Rumble instead, because that story needed Batista to win the Rumble. Needed that. Batista Triple H needed that Rumble win for Batista to really make that work. And I think that's where my brain's going.
I have it up in my head how I would have made Batista and all that work, but that is a whole nother 2 paragraphs. Yeah. But I think it came down to, if Cena wins the Rumble, you have 2 months of Cena, Eddie building up to that match and the different things you could have done. You could have teased one of them, being heel and all that. Whether if they win it, I'm assuming it was No Way Out. That used to be the pay-per-view, which is what Cena did. Then you only get a month of build-up for the feud. So I would rather go with between them two having a longer build-up. I don't like, I've said this before in the podcast, I don't like that there's a pay-per-view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us here. It was real interesting. Lots of nice history, lots of interesting conjecture. I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next week.
Hold on. I have a surprise.
Lenny has a surprise.
We'll give out more information next week, but Broken Table Commentary is going to be holding a contest in the next couple weeks to give out a WWE $30 gift card for the Shop Zone So make sure you listen in the next week or so to find out how you can possibly win this gift card from us.
That certainly is a surprise, but hey, our webmaster says that's the case, and that's the case. Michael, you got a surprise?
I was just thinking about how sad Booker T sounded in commentary this weekend on pay-per-view, and I know why, Jessel. He listens to this commentary, this podcast, and he was so looking forward to seeing actual ducks in a duck pond, only on the WWE Network for $9.99. I'm done.
We'll see you guys next
Throwback.
week. Bye-bye.